I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, the semester is well underway at Missouri Southern State University, and faculty and students are hard at work in the classrooms. Behind the scenes, there are staff members and administrators hard at work as well. And today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Paula Carson, our Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
You started work this summer at Missouri Southern. You've had a few months now to kind of get things underway. Someone stops you and says, "What's it like at Missouri Southern?" How do you answer that question for them?
I did. I started here July 1st, moved to the community just prior, and so have been trying to learn the campus, learn the people, and also the community. So I have 2 children in Joplin schools, so getting all that adjusted. In fact, I'm still trying to figure out the insurances and the pharmacy. So it's been super busy, that life is a little bit deferred right now, but it's a good busy because there's so much going on, so much to learn, so many things that I just wasn't aware of, contributions and relationships and collaborations that Missouri Southern has. So it has been very, very busy. I asked someone the other day, in fact, does it stay busy like this all the time, year in, year out? And they said yes. So it's obviously not just my newness contributing, it's just a busy place, which is good because it's very vibrant and very active, and so many things going on that all center around student learning, but also just creating an enlightened learning and living environment.
Okay, really, that student learning, the focus that the university is here for the students.
That's right. And we do always try to tie it back, whatever initiative it is, and sometimes it is not short-term learning, but it is long-term evolution of critical thinking skills or communication skills. And you may not see the impact of the initiatives or the programs for many, many years, but it always comes back ultimately to student learning and professional development.
Okay. Well, for some people who aren't familiar, let's have a brief bit of information on your background. You came here from Louisiana.
I did. I was in Louisiana. I'm from Louisiana, from New Orleans, and got my PhD in Baton Rouge at LSU, and then I moved just another hour up the road, and I spent my entire career up to now at University of Louisiana Lafayette.
Right.
And then we had some life changes. I lost my husband to cancer, and my 2 children decided that it was time for us to start a new normal. So we started exploring for where we might relocate. I had been at my previous institution for about 25 years, so it was a major transformation. So we had certain criteria that we wanted to find. We wanted a school that was a regional public school with aspirations to grow. We wanted a location that had a couple of characteristics. One that had opportunities for a lot of natural exploration, adventure, backcountry,
the outdoors,
mountainous, because we were from a very hot, flat, wet environment, which we loved, but we were looking for something very different. And then we were looking for a region that had a good bit of cultural and heritage opportunities, things that we could do for arts and history and along those lines. So we looked at 3 or 4 places throughout the United States, and we all agreed that Missouri was the place I wanted to pick. So we were very, very delighted to have been offered the opportunity to relocate here.
Joplin came out on the top of the list.
It did.
Well, I know your background is you had business interests initially, business administration. What led you to the higher education path? People wonder, you get an MBA, you get degrees, how do you decide I'm going to go on the education path?
That's a very, very interesting question. And it is, I tell people all the time, you're working and then you've been at a place 5 years and 7 years and then it's 20 years. And it's like, what happened there? And it's very, very interesting because in my roles, I've always been expected to offer wisdom and insight into career guidance. But the fact of the matter is, for me, and maybe for most, it is really just a series of happenstances. So actually, and this was one of the only real times that this has happened, but it so happened that I had undergraduate degrees in finance, and I went to, and a master's, and I went to pursue my graduate degree. And it's not a story I share very often because it's not really part of my identity, and I only just thought of it when you asked the question. But I went to get a PhD in finance because that was where my academic path had led me, and I was told, well, we don't really let females in this program. And that was not all that long ago, really, and I said, well, okay, so I should probably go find a program that did. And literally, and again, I probably should not be admitting this, but I walked around the corner and that was the Department of Management. And I'm like, well, management, perhaps if I pursue this, then it will help me understand why someone would tell a potential student what I was just told.
Right.
So that worked out very, very well. And again, in management, I pursued HR and labor relations. Labor relations is not a very popular course of study in Louisiana. A very, very small percent of unionization and collective bargaining is very unfamiliar. But the history and understanding the history really can prevent managers in corporate America from repeating some of the many mistakes of the past.
Appreciating the past.
So I thought it was very relevant and very helpful, and nobody else really wanted to do it. So I said, okay, that's good. The way I got into administration, and I was in academics and I published several books and hundreds of articles and presentations. And the way I got into higher ed administration was very interesting. We had, and you all probably are familiar, and in many industries there is the idea that we want to make sure that our clients, our customers, our students all have reasonable costs and accessibility and high quality outcomes. And in order to ensure that in higher ed, and in the comparable way that we were compelled as a society to demonstrate that in healthcare, but in higher ed, we began to probably 15 years ago talk about this thing called assessment and assurance of learning. And that is that, yeah, we can look at a syllabus and say, this is what we think we're teaching our students, or we could look at end of the semester grades, and that could demonstrate some learning, but also some effort, some attendance, some participation, a lot of things besides mastery of the actual material. Or we can do something completely different. And probably a lot of your viewers may be familiar with assessment in terms of No Child Left Behind, or LEAP, or standardized exams in K-12. Well, we weren't mandated to use specific devices, but we were mandated as a higher ed community to really come up with ways to demonstrate that the tuition dollars our students paying are good investment and a good value, and that they are learning what we think they are learning. And so there became a movement known as assessment or assurance of learning, and it was something that was very, very foreign. The transparency of higher ed, the accountability of higher ed, the movement by the National Department of Education that said the cost of a college education should be as clear as is the price of a car when someone walks up and looks at the sticker price on the door.
We know what we're getting with that money, right?
So in the business world, we had always been much more comfortable as the unit on campus with the accountability and the assessment and the cost-benefit transaction and determination of value than others. And so simply because I had more experience from the business domain with that, I started moving into upper admin through that assessment path, which still does not, the whole accountability does not tend to be anyone's most favorite activity on campus. But I think we are here in a culture where it's very important for us at Missouri Southern to make sure our students are learning. So it's been very well received. Faculty have been very receptive to doing what we need to do to make sure when our students leave here, they do know what we think it is that they know and what it is that they need to know.
Right, so preparing them for the work of tomorrow, preparing our citizens for what they're going to face and the challenges for tomorrow.
Exactly, and being able to communicate that, to be able to statistically look at that and demonstrate it quantitatively, and also to communicate it to all the stakeholders, the many stakeholders of higher ed.
And of course, I think even the state of Missouri is looking at it from the legislative side of, when you get money from the state, we're going to look at how your people are performing, your graduates are performing.
Yeah, performance-based funding, and in fact, it was relevant just this week that if we get this increase, it will be based on performance-based funding. And theoretically, the idea is elegant and it's important, and that is that if we are making an investment or basically providing you money to provide a service, we want to make sure you're providing that service. Right. Operationally, it becomes a little bit more challenging. For example, we want to make sure that our students, our graduates, whether they are at the AE level, or the bachelor's level, the grad level, or whatever, that they are working in field, that we are training them in the career in which they are interested in pursuing, so that if someone graduates with a specific degree, that they have a job that makes use of the knowledge and skills and abilities acquired during that degree. Well, for an engineering technology student, that would be perhaps pretty easy determination to make if they are working in a particular design field or a safety field or many jobs in the mining
manufacturing
industry.
things that are tied directly to their area.
That would be relevant. When it's English major, it's a little bit more difficult. So there are many graduates who specifically, and manufacturing, for example. The manufacturing industry here in Joplin is a great blessing to this institution of higher ed, to have that diverse economic base and to have those opportunities for our students in all disciplines to engage with them. It's a wonderful opportunity. But many manufacturing firms will hire English majors because of their communication ability and because of their critical thinking capacity acquired. So when they are doing something in terms of manufacturing management, is that degree relevant or not?
How do you say yes, they got a job in their field?
Exactly. Well, I think we could argue that it is, and the manufacturing hiring manager could argue that it is, and the graduate could, but it's much more difficult to make that connection for the general public on performance-based funding. But it has compelled accountability. It has compelled greater awareness of what it is that we do with the precious months and years that the students spend with us. It has made sure that I think as a community, not just in Missouri, but nationwide, that we are delivering the most relevant curriculum using the most appropriate mechanisms. So all in all, it's I think been a good trend.
So higher education continues to evolve, go through these changes, and Missouri Southern as well. You're seeing things evolving, changes on campus.
It is very dynamic. Just in my probably today, and we're filming this sometime around 1. I lose track really from 7. I lose track, but it's probably my 4th or 5th meeting or event today, and every other one of them has been looking at some strategic alteration in the higher ed learning environment that we should be anticipating. The one immediately prior, something called prior learning assessment, and that is in order to facilitate and help meet the state and the nation's goal of a large percentage of its citizenry having a degree or a credentialed outcome from a university. How can we expedite their progression in graduation? So prior learning assessment is where we take students who have been in the workforce or in the military or in the Peace Corps or in a number of other learning environments and be able to articulate that experience and equate it with earned credit to facilitate their graduation. So that is something very important. Just prior to that, we were looking at the different mechanisms we could perhaps use to deliver content, educational content to long track truckers, so tractor trailer drivers, or to oil rig workers who are
they're offshore somewhere,
and their timing is unique. It would have to be not only competency based but self-paced, or to police officers who could maybe enhance their education while they are sitting in their patrol cars. So looking at all those different environments with regard to delivery mechanisms and technology and timing. So it's very, very dynamic, but it's very exciting as well.
A lot of opportunities that people didn't have before to pursue that higher education in some of those cases.
Exactly, and we're trying to create more and more of those opportunities where previously with the absence of technology it would have not been feasible. In the old days we used to do correspondence studies, and you would get a big white envelope with a bunch of folded papers, and you'd say read this and answer these questions by hand and then mail it back. In many ways it's the same line of thinking, but just so much more effective and so much more efficient.
Thanks to the technology that we have, being able to provide those opportunities for them.
Right. And the resources, when you are, it's a very different traditional population, so how they are advised and what sorts of student support and tutoring and counseling services, all those things are very different and have to be adapted.
Now, are there also changes on the campus for the traditional campus setting where students attend classes, and the classroom itself is taking a different look for those traditional classroom approaches?
It is taking a very different look. So we have those fully distance learning courses, we call them, or digital electronic delivery, where there are people who are nowhere remotely in the geographic vicinity of Joplin or whatever institution is delivering it. And then we have these hybrids where a lot of learning is done remotely, but we still have the students come for testing purposes, or for socialization, or for interaction, or to be able to demonstrate oral communication skills, or a variety of different reasons. But then even just the traditional classes, we are looking, for example, and with the medical school that is coming to Joplin, and I think we have a very close and healthy partnership with them, but we are looking at ways to ensure that our students who complete here with a baccalaureate degree are academically and socially and emotionally prepared to enter and to succeed in medical school. So it's been very interesting. You would think a lot of our discussions would be centered around science, and they are, but many other things as well. For example, we're looking at developing with the medical school sort of an advanced study skills class, and that is because the medical school has and many medical schools have determined that students are not really adequately prepared to read and comprehend large volumes of printed material, which is still very much
the days of picking up that book and having to read a book are still there.
That's exactly right. In medical education, it is critical. And so for us to be able to create the awareness and the expectation, but also the ability of our students to actually go back to very thick, dense, no pictures, many words, paper books, and to be able to understand the necessity of having them. And those books will, of course, serve as ongoing references. So to be able to not just comprehend those books today, but understand the value of those books for reference materials in the long term. They are also, with regard to the medical school, they also want to make sure that our students are going to be able to adjust to the schedule, which was your question. And that is, they have accelerated and compressed. So is it possible for us to deliver our content and accelerated and compressed, so that maybe there are 3 6-week terms in a semester? The students are spending 5 or 6 hours a day in a class or in a lab, and they're really only doing 1 or 2 classes, perhaps, a mini term, if you will. There's a lot of good evidence that there are other benefits of these non-traditional models too, and that is retention and completion. The students value the opportunity to focus just on one dense subject at a particular time. So what we are doing right now is asking the academic units to explore and to work together, and if there's something innovative that would be beneficial to the students as well as to the faculty. When the faculty are able to deliver accelerated compressed, that means that there is some period of the semester where they can dedicate completely to research or to intellectual development or discovery or finishing that book or whatever it is. So it really very much feeds part of the expectations of an institution of higher learning, and that is not just teaching and instruction, but also research and service.
And of course, your role as provost and vice president of academic affairs, you're working directly with the faculty. You know, people look at the different divisions of the university. The faculty are the people who you're listening to, you're working closely with on these projects. Yes,
provost is a funny title. Most universities will have it, but there are many people who have no clue what that is.
What's a provost do? They say, right?
So serving as this position is basically the chief academic officer, so responsible for meeting the intellectual and learning and professional needs of the faculty and the students, really both. So we have the academic unit, and then we have what I refer to as the service and support units, and those are all of the other areas that help us to make sure that our students are aware of our services, that they can pay for our services, that if they have to miss a class, that they can receive the health support that they need, if they need tutoring, or if they need counseling, or if they need transportation to school or childcare for their child. All of those different things, the support mechanisms and people and structures that have to fall into place for students to be able to come to class and to sit in class and focus on class and optimize their classroom experience, because their faculty can't be effective without all these other supports. So to make sure that those are coordinated in a way that enhance the academic experience for students is in this domain as well. So.
And of course, I'm sure in today's society, we're seeing a lot more challenges students are facing in the real world of, just life, and they have to have this type of support.
Yeah, we do. The majority of our students do work, and a significant number of our students work, more than 24 hours a week, which is huge, and trying to carry full loads. And how does that work, and what does that do? Another one of my meetings this morning was what hours and types of access should our students have? Because it's very much a 24/7 campus, not just in the residential area, but also in the academic area. So there are many students who would like, but also really just need access to different aspects of our learning environments, our studios, our labs, some learning materials 24 hours a day. So how do we do that in a way that facilitates their knowledge acquisition but keeps them safe? And we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect our buildings and our equipment, and so how can we simultaneously meet all those potentially conflicting needs? So it's very true.
A lot of discussions held with many different people throughout campus as you see the developments and what's happening. When you look at Missouri Southern, someone comes and asks you, well, what are some points of pride? You've had a few months, what makes you proud to say I work at Missouri Southern?
Yeah, I think that I am very, very proud at our infrastructural investments. And I'm not just proud that we're going to have a new science building or that we have new workout areas and athletics, or we have new living learning environments. I'm very, very proud that we have looked and said we're going to have to make some sacrifices. We're going to have to tighten some belts right now, but we're investing for the long term. So we are trying to make things better for not just our students, but for all the generations of students that will come after. And I think that is responsible, and I think it is just the right thing to do. The other area in which I'm very, very proud is how the community trusts us to invite us into their workplaces, into their homes, and to work with their children, to hone our expertise and to enhance our learning, but also to assist them. So we have many, many opportunities where service learning, or whatever it is you may call it, where our students can go and can lend expertise and can add benefit to a company or to a nonprofit organization or to a school. And our students are further developing, further learning, but all the clients and the schools and the entities and the students and the children are being benefited as well. We have many, many of those. We don't talk about them very often, but they occur on a regular basis. And I'm just real pleased that our community recognizes the need to support the larger region.
And community seems to be a key word. You mentioned early in the program, community as well. I mean, Joplin and the community working together on many things.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're going to show the Third Thursday video in a little while. I was enormously proud about that. I was very, very proud because we had our people there after a long day, after a long week of a lot of work and beginning of the semester and academic challenges and really a lot of academic stretch goals, and went out there and really thought about what could we do, who were the people that are going to come to Third Thursday, and what could we do to engage them and to spark their passion for learning and to give them a little bit of fun at the same time. And it was really wonderful. Simultaneously, that the community came out and the community took time to go to the tables and the booths and the many displays to see what it was that we were about. It was very heartwarming, and it was a touching experience, I think, intellectually and personally as well.
And when you looked at Third Thursday, you saw a lot of families, so youngsters at an early age learning about Missouri Southern and what it has to offer.
That is very, very true.
All right. Well, Dr. Carson, I know you mentioned Third Thursday. We're going to show a video as we wrap up the program. Some of our students from KGCS were there and able to shoot some of the scenes. So let the community take another look at what Missouri Southern did. But I want to first, thank you for visiting today on the program and sharing some information.
Thank you for all you do for us, for the community, for the campus, and for the many students engaged in this production as well as most of the other productions that you have on the station. So I very much appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining in. As we close the program, we do have some video from Third Thursday, Missouri Southern hosted. Take a look at this and recognize some of the people and Missouri Southern State University in Joplin. We'll see you again next week.